The gross domestic product of the Sultanate had increased during the first 9 months last year by 10%. This improvement was attributed to the growth in oil activities by 23% and non-oil activities by 5%. Figures showed that the Omani crude oil price average last year amounted to around $51 compared to $40 for a barrel in 2016. The measures taken by the government for rationalizing general expenditure contributed positively on the state's general budget. With regards to prices, inflationary pressures in the Sultanate are still limited. Based on Consumer Price Index, the annual inflation rate average reached around 1% last January. The banking sector in the Sultanate continued to witness a reasonable growth and supported the economic diversification initiatives, including credit needs of all segments, with added emphasis towards the small, medium enterprises sector. The total outstanding credit extended by other depository corporations stood at 23.7 billion Omani Riyals as at the end of January 2018, a growth of 7.3% of the level witnessed a year ago. Credit to the private sector increased by 5.8% to 21.1 billion Omani Riyals as at the end of January 2018. Of the total credit to the private sector, the household sector, mainly under personal loans, stood at 46%, closely followed by the non-financial corporate sector at 45.8%, while financial corporations and other sectors obtained 4.8% and 3.4% respectively. Total deposits registered a growth of 5.1% to 21.7 billion Riyals, with private sector deposits growing by 5.1% to 14.1 billion Omani Riyals as at the end of January 2018. The Public Authority for Industrial Estates announced that there are industrial investments worth around $1 billion will be in Sur industrial estate starting from the end of this year. Hilal bin Hamad Al-Hassani, Chief Executive Officer of the Public Authority for Industrial Estates, said in his remarks to the Economic Forum program broadcasted by the Sultanate of Oman Radio that the Sur industrial estate will be transformed to a distinguished real estate very soon and will achieve a qualitative leap. He also pointed out that a plan was set up to establish an industrial estate in the governorate of Musandam. A site was also determined in the Wilaya of Thamrit at an area of 4 million square meters for the same purpose. He added that the establishments will soon finish the preparations of 3 million square meters in Ibri industrial estate, which will be an industrial logistic hub. As part of the National Economic Diversification Program Tanfeed, the Supervisory Committee of Labor Market and Employment Laboratory reviewed in its second meeting of the year the implementation status of initiatives discussed in previous meeting. It also followed up what had been achieved of measures related to initiatives implementation plans. It also dealt with initiatives facing some challenges and suggested ways to address them and speed up their work progress. Meanwhile, the indicators, measurements and implementation mechanisms for upcoming works phases were discussed. The meeting was chaired by His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser al-Bakri, Minister of Manpower. The energy and mining laboratories are being held for the third consecutive week at the Oman Oil and Gas Institute, which is organized by the Minister of Oil and Gas and the Public Authority for Mining. The laboratories are part of the Sultanate's plan to promote economic diversification and will be taking place until the April 26th. The participants are governmental and private stakeholders, a group of academic experts and civil society representatives. It is expected that the labs will produce a range of proposal projects and initiatives to achieve the strategic directions of the two sectors, which will be followed up with all concerned parties through specific performance indicators, a specific timeline, and a central control panel to ensure the implementation and finding ways to overcome the challenges. The Director General of Health Services in the Governorate of the Far organized a ceremony on the occasion of Gulf Nursing Day, which falls on the 13th of March every year. The celebration came to stress the role of the nurses in the medical services system and the care provided to the patients and the public in general. The celebration included a rich program reflecting the nobility of this profession. Through speeches, plays, sketches and lectures, the ceremony shed light on the role undertaken by male and female nurses within the health services system, challenges encountering the nursing sector, and training programs that enable them to fulfill their entrusted tasks towards patients. At the end of the ceremony, many nurses were honored. The theatre competition reached the final stage. It's part of clubs competition for youth creativity. 6 clubs were qualified at the level of the Sultanate from the final phase. They performed plays that tackled different social issues. The work showed some talents in the field who will contribute in future in the development of theatre in the Sultanate. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. The permanent representative of the Observer Mission of the State of Palestine to the United Nations said today he was disappointed that the United Nations Security Council didn't take any actions after holding an emergency meeting to discuss deadly clashes in Gaza between Palestinians and Israeli troops. Riyad Mansour said after the session that the people in occupied Palestine are disappointed now that the Security Council met but did not take action yet to stop this massacre and to condemn this massacre and to hold those responsible accountable. Mansour also accused the U.S. For refusing to allow the Council to shoulder its responsibility and being reluctant to go to the open meeting. At least 15 people were killed as thousands of Palestinians marched to Gaza's border with Israel yesterday. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for an independent and transparent investigation as Security Council members urged restraint and lowering tensions on both sides. Iraqi forces began to deploy in Sinjar following threats by Turkey to attack Kurdish rebels who have been based in the area. So far, only a few elements have arrived, mainly police, the government-sanctioned popular mobilization forces, and some soldiers from the army. The mayor of Sinjar said that the forces of the Kurdistan Workers' Party (PKK) had abandoned the area. Ankara threatened last week to attack Sinjar unless the PKK, which fights an insurgency in Turkey, withdraws. The Iraqi government said in response that it would assume security in Sinjar. The PKK moved into Sinjar in 2014 to counter an attack by Daesh group militants on the area's Yazidi population. A small force affiliated with the PKK and composed of local Yazidis remains in Sinjar. The leaders of the 6 countries along the Mekong River today vowed to strengthen cooperation as they gathered for the 6th Greater Mekong Summit in the Vietnamese capital, Hanoi. The Mekong Economic Cooperation Program was initiated by the Asian Development Bank in 1992. It provides financial and technical support for the member countries with investment in various fields, including infrastructure development. The summit in Hanoi also brought together over 2,000 entrepreneurs to be able to network and create business opportunities in the region. The members of the Greater Mekong Program are Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and China. The Sultanate is a favorite destination for various types of migratory birds. The beaches, for the example, host many species of seabirds and migratory birds throughout the year. Our colleague Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi has got this report on that.
A varied geography and a diverse climate make the Sultanate a perfect habitat for many species of birds and animals. If we look at the beaches around Oman, for example, we find that many kinds of seabirds and migratory birds choose these beaches as a safe haven throughout the year. Huge swarms of migratory birds pass through Oman during their seasonal journey between their nesting habitats and the places where they spend winters, especially those birds migrating from Europe and East Asia. Many birds migrate from faraway regions like northern Siberia and travel about 5,000 kilometers until they reach Oman, where they spend a good part of the winter in order to escape the harsh cold conditions up north. For the Sultanate of Oman Television English News, Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
And now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning over the governorate of South Sharqiya, Dhafar and Al-Wusta. Winds will be north and westerly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 meter. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The gross domestic product of the Sultanate increases during the first 9 months of the last year by 10%. The banking sector in the Sultanate continues to witness a growth of 7.3% to reach 23.7 billion Omani riyals. The Labour Market and Employment Laboratory discusses challenges and implementation mechanisms of the National Economic Diversification Program. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman Television. From the entire news team and myself, we do thank you for joining us. Wish you a pleasant evening and good night.